Hi, this is Elena Calabuscarino. I'm the managing editor of Buffalo Rising magazine. Today I'm with Michael Clark and Anthony Armstrong of LISC, and they recently took me through a tour of abandoned houses in Buffalo, and I'm going to let them speak to you about it.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and as you know, we've been involved in looking at the problem of vacancy and abandonment in the city of Buffalo, and I think frankly people begin not to understand how overwhelming the 10 to 12,000 vacant residential structures are when you get into certain neighborhoods where they're concentrated. And we think that probably 65% of the vacancy is concentrated in about 35% of the city, and many people just never get there to look at it. But in terms of the pictures that you've taken and posted on this, I think people will begin to see what it's really like in some of those neighborhoods and those conditions, and why we have to start to think very seriously about ways to intercept this problem and form some good solutions out of it that include greening and parks, etc. Because what we really did see here was people trying to live normal lives in the midst of all this. Children on porches and senior citizens trying to, go about their daily routines in neighborhoods that are just being abandoned one house at a time, day after day. And Anthony has done some interesting work with the Postal Service information that shows the increasing flight from the neighborhoods and the percentages of decline over a relatively short period of time.
Well, I think what's shocking to people, the statistics in some of these neighborhoods that we were driving through, upwards of 35% of the houses that are still standing are abandoned. That doesn't take into account all the houses that have come down already. When you look at the trends over a longer period of time, you actually see some neighborhoods where you've got upwards of 60% of the houses that used to be there are now abandoned or gone. But I don't even think that these statistics really convey what's happening. It's the actually being there and experiencing what is on the ground is a much different situation, and it's changing rapidly. Also, from a weekly or bi-weekly basis, you'll see houses come down. You'll see windows broken, boards ripped off, and you can notice a visual change almost in real time. And some of these neighborhoods have lost upwards of 10% of their occupied structures in the last year. And that's something that I think people really haven't come to terms with on how we actually deal with those situations. And we can't do it the way that we've been approaching these over the past decade. We need a radical new approach.
What have you seen as a prototype for what the city can do to improve this situation?
There are a lot of cities that are looking at ways to solve these problems. Right now, one of the leaders in that is Youngstown, Ohio, that undertook a very involved planning process that they did with Youngstown State University, and the mayor is actually a big proponent of right-sizing the city. That really means bringing down the scale of the city, not reducing the footprint of the city certainly, but reducing the number of neighborhoods that the city can support so that they can bring people into areas where the quality of life will be improved. You can see from this tour that there isn't much quality of life here. This is only an area of about 30 square blocks that we went through. None of these pictures are doubles of the same house for the most part, and it's part of a much larger area. So these neighborhoods don't sustain services, they don't sustain transportation systems. They cost the city an awful lot in terms of response by the fire department to arsons, etc. Police response. They cost us a lot probably in the future in terms of the way little children are growing up in these kind of areas and what that means for them in future life. So Youngstown's really on the sort of cutting edge of looking at the idea of how to downsize the city to meet the needs of its existing population and to add more green space and recreational space. The opportunities are presented by this vacancy, and Buffalo is a city that really is underparked when it comes down to the amount of acreage for parkland in the city of our size.
Yeah, I think one of the underlying messages of the Youngstown example is that just because you're a smaller city doesn't mean you can't be a better city. We were a city built for in excess of 600,000, and now we've got maybe 275,000 people living here, but there's no reason that we can't have a smaller city with a higher quality of life. And there's a lot of opportunities for for approaching new ways of envisioning our land use, new ways of talking about how we can green our city in the process, not just in parkland, but in being more environmentally conscious and about creating new opportunity for economic development and wealth generation on a broader level, but also for the residents of these existing communities.
Would your agency work to relocate people? What do we do about people that are languishing in these neighborhoods?
Well, there is no, nobody ever considers the idea of taking people out of their houses, the ones they've lived in and maintained for years. And you can see that there are people who, despite everything around them, are doing a pretty good job of maintaining what they've owned and lived in historically. So no, you don't do that. But basically leaving them in the current conditions is contributing to an unhealthy environment, possibly dangerous environment. It's one of the things that Youngstown's trying to do and try to figure out, and you have to make people a better deal essentially, and show them that why they should go someplace else if that's what ultimately the policy decision is, and how you help them get there is another issue. This requires a lot of conversation. A lot of people have to be aware of the issue and the extent of it. And I think this discussion is really for Buffalo. Just start.